I learned a while back that for me to get a really good night's sleep, I have to have absolute darkness. I can't have any light coming in. So I make sure with the new rectory that, okay, dark, has to be dark. So then when I travel, that's always a problem because there's light. Like we had a clergy conference on Monday and Tuesday of this week, and so in that room there were like the smoke detector light, and there was a light on the heater over there, and Now, I know people who travel with electric tape and would be going up there and covering those little lights, but at least pretty much I can wear a mask at those kind of times so I can get a good night's sleep. But it's amazing, those of you who like me are sensitive at night to light, how bright the little light can be on the smoke detector. You think it's a little LED up there, little tiny little thing. And I think, this little tiny thing is disturbing me. Little tiny. But that's all it takes. Little tiny can make a big disturbance when it's light. Jesus tells us today, you, my friends, are the light of the world and the salt of the earth. And you might think, I'm just little teeny tiny. And there's no way that I'm the light. And I think, oh yeah, you're like that light that's in that smoke detector. That's all it takes is one little teeny tiny thing to make a big difference. Now, we don't get it in English in the gospel today because in English, at least in this part of the country, we don't have a plural you because it really is plural. You here. So if we were in the South, you'd say y'all when you mean everybody. So Jesus would have said y'all are the light of the world and y'all are the salt of the earth. You don't have to do it alone. It's all of us. It's all of his followers are meant to be light and salt. Now, he doesn't say you should be. He says, you are. This is what he sees in you and in me. That we are to be for the world a source of light. As we hear in that first reading and in the psalm, it's that our deeds, these kind of deeds, caring for people, that make a huge difference in other people's lives. And they might not be just present. They might actually be far away because that's the nature of light. Just to know somebody's doing it gives people hope, changes things. You don't have to be right there. You don't have to impact everybody, but other people hear about it. The good things that we do here makes a difference, changes things. And salt does all kinds of things to what it touches, just as dramatic as light. It's a good image. Those of you who are chefs know how important salt is. And if you don't put salt in, because sometimes I know my mom would be so mad, we forgot to salt this. And it might be a cake. And you have to put salt in a cake? Yes. Because salt makes sweet things sweeter. And it gets rid of bitterness, changes things. So there's all kinds of wonderful things about salt that Jesus is saying about you and me. That we bring flavor, remove bitterness, preserve things, melt snow and ice. You also have to be careful because Jesus says in the gospel today, if it loses its flavor, then it's really good for just to be thrown out. But in Jesus' day, it was used as a weapon as well. Because if you wanted to destroy somebody's fields, what did you do? You put salt in them. And all of us know this in Nebraska. If you over-salt, as our crew does here oftentimes, the sidewalks, what happens to the grass on either side? It dies. So, you are to be that. You and I are to be that. And you might think, I don't know how that's possible. How do I do that? I watched a press conference of Bishop Golka, who is a priest from Grand Island, who was just appointed the Archbishop of Denver. And at the press conference, they asked him what was his agenda as the new Archbishop of Denver, and he said, well, I don't know if I have any other agenda than the agenda Jesus gave us, because that's really what we're supposed to be about, right? It's not a political party. What we promote is Jesus. And he told a little story about his nephew who recently had made his first communion, and he had called him up and said, hey, because he couldn't be there, he's been the bishop of Colorado Springs for the last few years, and he said, well, how would the first communion go? He said, it was great, Uncle. And he said, well, what did the priest preach about? Oh, you know how it goes. It's just Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And so he said, yeah. So that's what I want to say to you as your new Archbishop. What's it all about? It's about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. But then he went on to reflect upon that little line from St. Paul in Philippians, where Paul says, Jesus, though he was in the form of God, did not deem equality with God something to be grasped at, but emptied himself, being human. That Jesus would have given it all up. He had all the power of God. But out of love, he becomes us. And lets go of all that power. He empties himself so that he could be with you and me to tell us that we're loved. And that process of self-emptying is a process for all of us. That we empty ourselves of us, the stuff that gets in the way, and that we fill ourselves with Jesus. And that we can do then what Jesus did. And what did Jesus do? He told you and me, the world, that we are overwhelmingly loved by God. How hard is that? That's our job. That's what it means to be light and salt. To let those you meet, those you touch, those you see, know that they're loved by God. To bring love, beauty, truth to wherever you are. And to some that will be an irritant, like that little light on the smoke alarm, because that will irritate some people. But it is powerful, my friends, to be a reminder to this world of ours that we are loved by God. That you know that you are loved, you have emptied yourself, and filled with Christ. You are for them light, salt.